Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes in I Have Some Notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice or support it by visiting patreon.com/I Have Some Notes. We've been trying to make the most out of having a new big backyard.
Yes.
By having friends over for like campfires and letting the kids
weenie
play
roasts
outside.
and s'mores and stuff. Yeah.
The problem is we haven't only just reached like the summery part of the spring season. We've also reached the smoky season.
Yeah.
And so most of the weekend there was like an air quality advisory out and visible smoke. Like it looked like fog.
Yeah, the outside smelled bad.
So, unfortunately, weren't able to let the kids out to really enjoy the outdoors this nice weekend.
It sucks, because lately it's felt a lot like, okay, well, we can't go outside because it's too cold, because we had a very cold winter.
Yep.
And now it's like, oh, okay, it's nice out again. Oh, wait, nope, the air is all full of smoke. Never mind, still stay indoors.
Yeah, we're kind of getting robbed out of our summer months by all of the wildfires that continue to rage throughout the country.
Sucks.
It does suck. Sucks pretty bad. If only there was something that could have been done to prevent this from happening. But here we are.
Here we are.
Dealing with the present. So, at any rate, I guess we'll segue into our book, which we obviously had plenty of time to read this weekend. Despite Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Thank you.
It
was lovely.
To the mother on this podcast and to any mothers who are listening. And if you do not celebrate Mother's Day for whatever reason, happy weekend that just passed.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, I understand there are people for whom Mother's Day is more emotionally fraught, either because of their relationship with their mother, their lack of a mother, especially if your mother maybe recently passed away. So I'm certainly trying to be sensitive, but at the same time, there are people who do celebrate, and there are mothers who are worth celebrating, and certainly one of them sitting right next to me.
Aww.
So there you go. But yes, that was a tangent that I went on while I was trying to segue into the book. So we'll actually segue into the book now.
Okay, let's do it.
Starting with a brief recap of our previous chapter, which was Perimortem 3, in which Beckett, the vampire boyfriend, gets got.
Carrying on.
Yeah, that leads us into chapter 20 of The Undetectables by Courtney Smyth. So, Mallory awakens to the news that Beckett is dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We're 4 days out from Samhain. It is a new day.
And
it has started poorly.
Yeah. She awakens to hear Cornelia, like, crying.
Losing it.
Yeah.
More or less.
She and Diana, actually, both go to investigate, and Cornelia reveals that she's on the phone being informed by Detective Inspector O'Sullivan that Beckett was found dead at the vampire cemetery the night before.
Yep.
So your theory that he might be undead, no, he's dead.
Nope.
Straight up dead.
Straight up dead.
Straight murdered.
I mean, it's possible that he might still get better, but at this point it seems very unlikely.
If it was known that he would get better, you'd think that people would be handling his apparent death much better.
Right?
Yeah. No, he's straight murdered. He's gone.
Yeah.
Cornelia's distraught because while she was planning to break up with him, she certainly didn't want him dead.
No. Well, even Mallory and Diana basically say the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Diana actually says, like, I will not apologize for my words or thoughts towards him.
Yeah, she's like, I take nothing back.
But he certainly did not deserve to be murdered.
No, and I agree. Like, yes, we didn't like him. Yes, we didn't want him around, but we didn't wish him to be dead.
No.
That's different.
Yeah. Theodore also pops in amidst all of the distraught.
Well, because he hears all of the screaming and crying
Yeah.
and wailing.
His initial reaction is, what has Beckett done now? And then when he discovers Beckett's been murdered, he's like, oh, my poor sweet children.
Oh, my girls.
Now, this presents an immediate complication because Sully is like, Cornelia needs to come down to the station to answer some questions.
Well, her boyfriend's been murdered.
Well, not just her boyfriend's been murdered, but also it's very possible that it was known that the last place Beckett went before he was found dead was to Cornelia's house.
Yeah.
Because that's where he was.
Yeah.
This is a complication because, number one, that means that Cornelia is currently a suspect.
Yep.
Number two, she was bitten by him the night before in flagrant disregard for sacred laws.
Yes.
And that's a problem.
Yes.
So Theodore's like, here's what you're going to do. Disregard everything that you've ever watched from like a CSI or an NCIS.
TV has it all wrong.
What you do is you only answer yes or no questions. You be succinct. And the second that you feel like you need it, ask for a lawyer. It's not an admission of guilt. The lawyer is there to help protect you whether you're innocent or guilty.
Correct.
So that you do not incriminate yourself. Because, Cornelia, I, Theodore, am telling you, it is very important that you do not incriminate yourself with your words to the police. Ask for a lawyer and let the lawyer do all the talking for you. Do none of the talking for yourself.
And then...
Because, of course, Theodore accompanies her to the police station.
Yes.
Because he was one of the last people to see... He recognizes he was one of the last people to see Beckett alive as well. And believes that that can help absolve Cornelia of any guilt. So he wishes to go and make a statement, too.
Yes.
So the two of them go to the station. What happens next is actually a little interstitial moment because Mallory's like, well, while we're waiting for them to deal with the police, we might as well continue with some of our investigation. Let's go downstairs, use the magical machine.
Yeah. Like, okay, first of all, the Whistler has murdered again.
Yes.
We need to get on this case.
Yes.
We need to solve this, right?
Uh-huh.
So they're now focused because they need Cornelia's probably going to be in a bind.
Yeah.
And it's a welcome distraction.
Yes.
Right? Let's get to work.
And they have stuff that they've continued to put off because people they know keep dying. Yeah. And it's tripping up their ability to investigate, needing to deal with all the personal stuff.
Right.
So, like, for days now, they've been sitting on DNA samples. They've been sitting on CCTV footage that they need to get to.
Not days.
Well, long enough.
Yeah, long enough that, like, okay, we need to get this done.
Yeah. So they begin by running the final DNA tests that they need to run through the mass spectrometer. Specifically, they have finally got some of Beckett's DNA.
They have Beckett's hair.
Some of Gray Quinn's DNA.
Yep, they have his pocket square.
Some of Van Doren's DNA.
Yep, and Sully's DNA as well.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Yes. So they run them all through the mass spectrometer. First things first, Beckett pretty much immediately removed as a suspect. At this point, though, he's been murdered, so he was already removed as a suspect.
Exactly.
But they prove that his blood is like silvery.
It's a silvery gray and kind of sooty.
Yeah, so it's not a match to the murder. They also discover that Gray Quinn, also not a match.
Yeah, demon magic comes out this like brilliant like sapphire blue.
Yeah, so
not pink.
Not pink. However, both Van Doren and O'Sullivan do come out pink. So witch magic appears to be pinkish.
Well, witch magic is red.
Well,
we've already established.
Yeah, but they're both coming out pink.
Right, which is interesting.
Witch magic might have different flavors.
Maybe.
Or it could be like a mixed blood thing again.
Maybe. We don't entirely understand the science behind this magical analysis yet, so...
This is pointing Mallory more towards the suspicion that Van Doren is the killer, because it's material evidence that kind of supports that hypothesis. Again, I'm pretty sure she has it wrong, but her logic is sound. I can't fault her logic here.
No.
She's not working with all the information that I'm working with, or supposing, so... This is the point where Cornelia bursts back into the room.
Yes.
And is like, oh my God, they've arrested Theodore. And Diana and Mallory are like, excuse me, what?
They what now?
So here's what happened at the police station. They went down. Cornelia was questioned.
Yep. Followed all of Theodore's rules.
Yep.
It's very good.
Also managed to prevent herself from being, like, taken into custody at this juncture by basically bribing a police officer. And she straight up admits it's privilege. It's 100% privilege.
She's like, yes, I promised whoever the other detective was, I don't think we got a name.
Yeah.
A ticket to the next ball that my parents throw.
Whatever that might be.
She's like, I recognize that it was me using my privilege, but I did it anyway.
Yeah. She could not, however, help Theodore, who...
Oh my
in
God.
flagrant disregard to all of his own rules, talked himself into incrimination.
Yep, talked himself right into a pair of handcuffs, that guy.
Yep. He is now in ghost jail because he managed to make it clear that he was the last person to see Beckett alive. He can walk through walls as easily as walking through a curtain, and therefore could have easily committed Custer or Ben's murders. And they're like, oh, well, this is very interesting information. Please enter into this ghost light where you will be held until we can bring this to the attention of the Ghoul Council.
Please remain in custody because you are basically confessing to everything.
Yes.
He wasn't.
No.
He was simply positing.
Yes, he thought he was being very helpful to Cornelia and successfully sunk his own boat in the process.
So Cornelia goes running back to the house to get the other girls, and then they now need to save Theodore.
Yeah. Now, the good news is they have pretty substantial evidence that Theodore couldn't possibly be the killer.
Yeah, they quickly logic it out. He can't. There's no way.
Because he even admits that he doesn't have an alibi for any of the murders.
No,
he was at home by himself for 2 of them.
Yep.
And then was with Beckett the last time Beckett was seen alive.
So the girls run through the logic and the evidence really quickly. They start with Beckett, and they can't really disprove that Theodore didn't do it. Yeah. But they can quickly disprove the other 2. If he had been in the club, he would have messed with the cameras. Yeah. And or would have been caught on camera. And he is neither, because the CCTV footage very conclusively shows that he wasn't there, but also nothing else. That there was no disruption, right? No. He is basically made of static, and so he would have screwed with the camera, right? Yeah, the camera would have gone down. But as I mentioned, also doesn't conclusively show anything else. No. There's no someone caught in the act of committing a murder, unfortunately. No. But at the moment, we're trying to save Theodore. They weren't able to get the CCTV footage from the Quinn Hotel, but conveniently, Diana has an ex who works the front desk who is willing to watch the CCTV footage and then get back to them if anything suspicious or interesting happens. Yes. Involving Quinn or Van Doren. So they will hopefully get some information soon. I hope so. Yes. We'll see. I'm willing to bet that nothing much is going to come of that. Probably not. And then they look at Custer's death. And quickly determined that Theodore could not have done it at all because that is outside of his ghost radius. Yeah, he can't leave the. He can't leave Racton. He can't leave Racton without just blipping back to his point of death in their basement. Right. So the fact that Custer's death happened outside of the Racton city limits means that he physically could not have gone there and committed the murder. Yeah. He would not have been able to go there. Yeah. So and they know Custer died in his room. So they have pretty conclusive evidence that absolves Theodore, but that the police absolves Theodore of the first 2. Yeah, but that hasn't stopped the police from taking him into custody at this time. But they don't have all the information the Undetectables do, potentially. True. So their next course of action as of the end of this chapter is we're going to go and give this information to O'Sullivan to get Theodore released from prison. Yes. That's basically where our chapter ends. Yeah. Couple more things I want to talk about. Sure. The beginning of this, Cornelia is the hottest of messes. Yes. And for possibly the first time in this book, I genuinely felt for her. On a mental and emotional level, hot mess. Well, right? I mean, her soon-to-be ex-boyfriend was just murdered. Well, she's just lost a good friend of hers when Ben was killed, so she's dealing with that. Her boyfriend just took advantage of her because of her grief. And then died. And then went out and got murdered. Yeah. Right? Hot mess. I can see why she was wailing and losing it. That's so much to take in. All in a short amount of time. She handles it surprisingly well, all things considered. After hot messing for a little bit, Diana and Mallory are able to get her dressed, get some breakfast in her. She's composed enough to go to the police station. And when Theodore gets put in peril, she has the composure to run back and get the girls and be like, we need to save Theodore. I imagine that somewhere in her brain, she switched into emergency mode. I know I do that. Yeah. You've seen me do that. You kind of compartmentalize. Where you're like, okay, I will feel later. Right now, this is more important and we have to deal with it. Well, and the girls even did that at Ben's murder. Yeah. They were like, feel later. Yes. Right now, we have a job to do. Yes. We will just put this aside for a minute. Also, Cornelia, previous to the whole hot messery, did something incredibly sweet that I didn't know a witch could do. She put a spell in a crystal? You didn't know that witches could enchant things? Is that what this is? Because, the witch lights are enchanted. I know. And the deadly knife of deadly death is enchanted. I know. But, I don't know. Something about the way it works kind of threw me. She put a spell into a crystal and gave it to Mallory so that Mallory would have a binding spell, handy on her. And I was like, that's when she really needs sweet. It was a really sweet thing to do.
Oh, it absolutely was. And it shows that Cornelia does care.
Of course.
And even in her grief, when Mallory was like, I don't suppose you could do a little binding spell on me to help me out, Cornelia was like, yes, no question.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm grieving. Yes, I'm a hot mess right now.
Yes, I can do this for you.
Absolutely, I will do this. It's nothing for me to do it for you. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. She basically gave her another pair of magical compression hose, which is very nice. And Mallory, throughout this whole chapter, this whole evidence processing bit that they were doing, she kept swallowing the part about killing the beetles. She's like, nope, can't deal. I will deal with it later. Can't. Now is not the time. Deal with it later. I want to sit Mallory down and say to her, look, there's never going to be a good time to tell Cornelia. Just try to pick the least worst time.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, right now is probably not the least worst time.
I know. But I'm worried that Mallory is going to start looking for a good time,
and
it's going to spiral out of control.
Yeah, she does resolve herself to telling Cornelia. Like, she makes a mental note, I have to do this. Like, I can't. It's going to get worse and worse the longer I let it sit. But, yes, she also is like, now is not the right time, and you're absolutely right. She might start falling into that spiral of it's never the right time.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, is that she's going to spiral into it's never the right time.
And use it as an excuse to never actually bring it up.
Yeah. Until Cornelia finds it herself, and then, all hell's going to break loose.
And the clock's ticking on that. She's going to check up on those beetles at some point.
Right?
Yeah.
Woo!
Anyway, I think that's pretty much covering off this chapter. We'll have to find out next week if Theodore gets saved.
I imagine he will.
Probably.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. We'll find out for sure as we read chapter 21 of our novel, which you'll want to read up on in time for next week. In the meantime, of course, as always, you can give us a little rating and review on your podcatcher of choice.
Because we love those kinds of things.
It's true. We also love to interact with you on social media.
Pick your poison. We are on Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Blue Sky, and Goodreads. We are at The Read Along for any of those things that need an at.
Correct. You can also send us an email.
Yes, we are thereadalong@gmail.com.
And with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
On to Samhain.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.